So inside of Team Roar today, we ended up going 4 for 5 on the day, making multiple 100% profit returns, buying cheap, low-risk, out-of-money option contracts, and selling them deep in the money for the biggest percentage gains within the market. Within tonight's lesson, I'm going to be recapping the overall trades that were made, along with giving you our new levels of interest that we are planning to trade at. Let's get straight into the market analysis. So, in terms of last night's video, I went over a trade that we ended up making on puts. We banked on puts twice in a row with this 90-minute pattern, this 90-minute trend that we ended up capturing. I would encourage you to go back and watch last night's video. It's going to give you a more in-depth on this strategy. We ended up using the same exact pattern that we used to profit on puts yesterday, today. The same exact pattern ended up repeating itself, and we caught it in real time, man. Let's get straight into the analysis. So, in terms of the overall pattern, this pattern has repeated itself for 3 days in a row. In terms of the trading strategies that I'm teaching you, they will show up within time. Sometimes it takes a couple days, sometimes it takes a couple weeks, sometimes it takes months. We have multiple unique price action trading strategies that you can use to consistently profit on within the overall market. This history is continuing to repeat itself nonstop at the speed of light, but you have to show up for the market, and you have to have your third eyes open, and you have to capture these trends, these patterns in real time. Let's get straight into the analysis. So, in terms of this pattern, we have this green candlestick right here, and then we have this red bearish candlestick to the downside. That's an hour of resistance. We have this green candlestick right here. We have this red bearish candlestick right here. That's an hour of resistance. Then we have a red bearish candlestick pointing to the upside with a nice bottom wick. Then we have a red bearish candlestick pointing to the upside with the bottom wick. That pattern was repeating itself for 90 minutes. So if history continues to repeat itself, what's going to happen on the next 30-minute candle? The opening of the next 30-minute candle, as shown here, it is going to try to top at the previous 30-minute closing price, which if history repeats itself, it's going to be a phenomenal opportunity to buy put options and ride it back down for a very strong bearish closing 30-minute candle. With that being said, that was the overall reason why I ended up buying put options on the opening of this 30-minute candlestick yesterday, selling into the move once we hit this key bottom wick support. And then I was well aware if this support level cracks, you're going to want to buy and get back in on put options because the SPY is going to have a massive flush if it cracks under that pin. The same exact pattern ended up repeating today. So in terms of another reason why we bought put options towards that overall zone, I made it very clear in recent videos that I posted that the SPY was likely going to drop first when it tests this previous support level towards 528.50. This was a massive bear trap level, you know? So this was a massive, bull trap level, where the bulls got trapped at 528.90 and we had a massive drop. So if it spikes back up to this previous support for the first time, it's likely going to react as a resistance. And a great confirmation for that strategy is the red bearish 30-minute confirmation. That was an opportunity to buy put options on the opening of this 30-minute candlestick. So in terms of my recent videos, I made it very, very clear. We were also interested in buying put options at 532.66 for a gap close reversal. The SPY ended up having a massive gap down from 533 to 510. So if it quickly spikes back up to fill the gap, it's likely going to have a reversal. And then you use the red bearish 30-minute confirmation or the trend reversal 30-minute confirmation. With that being said, in terms of today, we partially filled the gap. So the SPY ended up partially filling that gap and have a reversal. One of the ways to confirm that it's going to partially reverse at that gap, then start to crash back down to fill the gap that is waiting to fill below, is the 30-minute chart. We ended up forming resistance for 2 hours straight, putting in lower highs on the hour chart. You can see on the 30-minute chart, you can see we're putting in lower highs right here and we're topping out close to the gap right here. It is failing to break out. It is failing to break out above this gap. It is failing to basically fill the gap for 2 hours straight. It's forming lower highs for an hour straight. We have a red, green, red bearish pattern, and the SPY is floating on thin fucking air, man. We got a gap to fill below. If the SPY cannot break out and it's sitting up here for 2 fucking hours and we got a gap to fill below, odds are it's going to start to drop back down and fill the gap below. And what's going to really trigger that is those red bearish 30-minute confirmations. Now, in terms of the overall pattern, you're going to see, look at the similarities. History can repeat itself in very similar cycles. Take a look, man. You have 2 hours of resistance towards a key level that we were interested to buy puts on. That's a reason to be bearish for a partial gap reversal, right? That's a strong bearish foundation. Then you also have a 90-minute pattern that was repeating itself for 2 days in a row. If you start to capture short-term trends, you're going to do very well within trading. Using the 10-day, 30-minute chart, you identify these 30-minute patterns. When they appear, there's going to be some days where they don't appear, and you're going to have to go further back, or you're just going to have to sit on the sidelines if that's all it is that you're using in terms of the 30-minute chart. But we have everything figured out in terms of the stack, man. This is just one of the foundation. There's levels. It gets far more advanced, man. But I'm walking you through it. I gave you the level, 532.66. We're interested in doing put options. It nearly hits the level. It forms resistance for an hour. It forms a red, green, red bearish pattern. And then it forms lower highs for an hour straight. It's sitting towards resistance at 2 hours. Another stack is, it can't just sit and float up here. It's forming lower highs. It's going to start to fill the gap below. Now, in terms of the bearish pattern, this repeated 2 days in a row. We ended up capturing this yesterday, and we ended up capturing it today in real time. So, in terms of the overall pattern, man, and I'm going to open your third eye up. This is what I'm saying, man. For those of you who had your third eye open, you watched the video last night, you should have been in on put options exactly where I was in on put options. I'm literally showing you how to escape the fucking matrix of fucking trading, man. This is what they're not teaching you. So let's get straight into it. We have this red bearish 30-minute confirmation, right? So you have the green candle, the red candle, the green candle, the red candle. This was towards a key level. This was towards a key level. So I'm using a key level and I'm using bearish confirmations, right? Plus it fucking sat for 2 hours straight at resistance. Plus there's gaps to fill below. It can't just sit up here. It has to crash if it's just going to form lower highs and form bearish patterns, right? So you have the green candle. You have the green candle. You have the green candle. It's at key levels. It's failing to break out. Then you have the red bearish candle pointing to the downside. You have the red bearish candle pointing to the downside. Red bearish candle pointing to the downside, right? Then you start to see very similar, not identical, but very similar. You have this red bearish wick, red bearish wick. This is where it's really identical. This red bearish wick right here, very identical. Red bearish wick right here, very identical. Red bearish wick right here. So the point being is, when the SPY goes under this wick, when it goes under this wick, it's going to absolutely flush. And if you looked at the overall pattern, you should have been buying put options on the opening of this 30-minute candlestick at 12 p.m. or even on the opening of this candlestick at 12:30 p.m. So I'm going to walk you through this, man. In terms of the trade, I ended up buying SPY 524 puts at 112 cents at 12:05 p.m. So I ended up going with that 90-minute pattern, right? So on the opening of this candlestick, I ended up going with an overall 60-minute pattern. Another reason was these lower highs, previous support reacting as a resistance. Again, 2 hours of resistance, red, green, red fucking pattern, partial gap close fucking reversal. But what gave me a lot of confidence was 2:30 p.m. Was 12:30 p.m. This is where, in terms of trading, if you truly just wait and be patient for something to develop a little bit longer, you might miss out at first, but you're going to get the best confirmations, man. I was adding and I was averaging my cost down at 94 cents, man. We had many members bank on this. They were adding in the 80-cent range. And then this is where I got extremely confident. When that 30-minute candlestick ended up closing, I realized this is the exact same pattern as yesterday. You know, before then, there was just a lot of similarities, but now it's like exact to a fucking T. So we have a similar 30-minute pattern compared to yesterday. The key from here is to just stay under 528, right? So this was the pattern. The 30-minute candlestick closed right here. I'm comparing this exact pattern. Just look at this, man. This is literally identical, man. Let me zoom this in for you. This is identical. Look at that, man. Look at these 4 candles. Look at these 4 candles. This is so identical. That's why at 12:30 p.m., we were adding the put options and we were becoming extremely fucking confident when we were just flushing right out the fucking gate. We noticed history's repeating itself. And then when it cracks that wick, you add. So I made it very, very clearly bringing awareness into the trade, man. This was giving me all the confidence in the world to not only hold, but to continue to add to the position. The key from here is to stay under 528. That's the previous closing of the, previous closing highs of the next 30-minute candle. And once we drop under 525.70, that's the bottom of this wick. And then again, bottom of this wick. And also it's at very similar levels compared to yesterday. Very similar levels compared to yesterday, right? So I made it very, very clear. Once we go under 525.7, that's when it's truly going to have a massive drop. And then that's where we're going to fill the gap below at 522.15, which is where we want to buy calls for a gap close reversal. And the SPY did end up having a very nice short-term reversal at the 522 level, but there was not a green bullish 30-minute confirmation on the chart once we filled the gap. So the only way to take advantage of that particular strategy in that situation was to use the 1 minute and the 5 minute time frame, which means you're going to be scalping for smaller wins. But those small wins could be a big win if we have a very strong volatile move and a very quick quick period of time. But in terms of a strong foundation in a longer holding period of time, I prefer to base the trade off the 30-minute confirmation. Now, for those of you who do like to scalp the 1 minute and 5 minute chart, you can try it using the same confirmations in a sense at 1 minute and 5 minute. But those 30-minute confirmations, those 1 hour confirmations, it's a very strong foundation and base where you can just hold the trade with ease. Very, very stress-free, where you're not just in and out within minutes and for much bigger gains. But the SPY did end up reversing at the gap. So in terms of the reasoning behind the trade, man, we had 2 hours of resistance towards one of our key levels to buy put options. The gap closed reversal at 532.60, and we had an hour of lower highs, and then we had the green candle, the red bearish candle to the downside, red bearish candle to the downside, green candle, red bearish candle to the downside, red bearish candle to the upside, red bearish candle to the upside, red bearish candle to the upside, red bearish candle to the upside. Once you see these red bearish candles to the upside, you start buying put options on the opening of the next 30 minute. Once we start to crack the wicks, you add to the position. If you already sold or scaled out, then you just kind of get back in or even add to winners, right? You can leave some runners as well. So in terms of the history, man, it repeated to nearly an exact fucking T. The only difference was, in a sense, once it cracked this 30-minute wick, it didn't have a massive flush until the next 30 minutes. So history is going to repeat itself in similar cycles, not to an exact T. You can see it doesn't look nearly identical, but it looks very similar in a sense. And that's what matters, man. And you can see we're stacking everything. There was a gap that was waiting to fill at 532.60. That was a high level of interest for us to buy put options. So the SPY partially filled the gap. That's a stack to buy put options. The SPY formed a red, green, red bearish pattern. The SPY formed resistance for 2 hours straight. The SPY formed lower highs for an hour straight. The SPY formed a bearish pattern that was repeating for the past 3 days straight. The SPY had a gap to fill below at 522.50. With all those bearish confirmations, it's likely going to partially reverse the gap and then come back down to fill the gap below at 522.15. And then once it fills the gap at 522.15, it's likely going to bounce first because we had such an overreaction to the downside. Look at how fast we dropped from 531. You don't think we're going to at least bounce first at 522? So an overreaction not fucking big. You can try to scalp calls quickly on the 1 minute and 5 minute chart. I didn't buy calls because I didn't scalp the 1 minute and 5 minute chart. My focus is the 30-minute chart for the longer holder period. And I didn't buy calls at the gap. I told the team, this is bearish. This is a red bearish 30-minute confirmation. And then we became really bearish once it topped for an hour at this previous support. We became really bearish when it dropped back down, closing at the previous closing price. I told everyone, stay the fuck away from calls. So who do you know is teaching you this information, man? Do you understand? This is how I view the market. Everything it is that I'm showing you will happen again. But are you going to show up, have your third eye open, be aware of everything it is that I'm teaching you, and capture it in real time? Because that's what it is that we do. All of these patterns, everything it is that I'm teaching you, we trade in real time. This works. This has very high win rates, above 80% plus. This is consistently making us money at the speed of fucking light, man. So in terms of the puts, man, we absolutely crushed it on the puts. I got out too early at 136 cents a contract, but we were adding and averaging our costs down, and the market analysis was spot on. We had some people leave runners, and we were adding, there was great adding opportunities once we cracked support. This was 100% spot on, man. Now look, this is where it gets absolutely insane. If you think that trade was a good trade, man, those puts, they ended up going to 300 a contract, man. That was a great trade, but take a look at this, man. Take a look at G-Roar's trades that he ended up making today. I'm going to walk you through this, man. So that is the recap on my overall trade. Now I'm going to be recapping the other trades that we did end up making today inside of my secured private organization of Team Roar. Let's get straight into it. So in terms of the morning trade, what did I tell you? Nearly every single morning is green, is a win. The morning trades, nearly every single morning session is a win. Even if there's 2 trades in the morning, one of them end up being typically 150% profit return. So if you took both, you should be green in a sense. So with that being said, in my experience inside of Team Roar, these morning trading sessions, every single fucking trade is green. Take a look at this. The first trade on the day, 9:31 a.m. We ended up buying 533 calls for 60 cents. We don't even have to put SPY in the fucking alert. Everyone knows 533 calls. That's fucking SPY, man. 60 cents a contract. These calls, we ended up selling at the speed of fucking light. For 135 a contract, man. We ended up selling at 135 a contract at the speed of fucking light in 30 minutes, man. Who the fuck do you know is doing that? That's a fucking 110, 120% profit return in 30 minutes. You walk away, you call it for the day. You have a very nice win, you're done for the day. If you continue to trade, you can risk 30 to 50% of what you made. You do not go under that, man. You should be starting light, but sizing in big enough where you can call it on your first trade, where you made a decent amount, where you hit a somewhat of a goal, and then you call it, right? You should be starting light, but big enough where it counts for something that you're striving for, where it counts where you can walk away for the rest of the day. You don't have to keep on trading. Or if you want to, it counts big enough where, okay, I can make one more trade on the day, risk 30 to 50% of the overall gains, right? So in terms of the overall SPY calls, this was a phenomenal trade, man. Take a look at the overall contracts. We ended up getting in directly at the market open, man. Who the fuck do you know bought those calls at the speed of fucking light in the market fucking open and sold at the exact fucking peak? Do you realize we got these calls at the exact lows, right here, at the exact lows? We ended up selling at the exact fucking peak, 10:01. Every single trade we make, all of the analysis, this is all timestamped in real time, sold at 10:01 a.m. Look at the fucking contracts. That's the exact peak. That was the morning trading session, man. In terms of my trades are made during the middle of the day, man. Now, with that being said, in terms of the next trade that you were in making, take a look at this, man. So we ended up having a phenomenal trade on Amazon calls as well. We bought these Amazon calls at 60 cents a contract at 9:50 a.m. In terms of these Amazon calls, they ended up spiking at the speed of fucking light to 98 cents a contract. That's a phenomenal trade, man, for a 50% profit return very, very quickly. And in terms of the last trade that we ended up making on the day, it was SPY put options. So in terms of my second trade on the day that I ended up calling out, my personal trade, I ended up doing call options early into the power hour. It did not work out. So in terms of all the trades that were made in total, we were 4 for 5 on the day. Now, if you see me in a trade earlier and I'm in on calls, and then later in the day, G-Word does puts, you take both. Because one of them is going to typically go up 150% profit return during the power hour trading session. That's why if you ever see us, make a trade that's the opposite within, during the power hour trading session, you're going to want to take both in a sense, man. But G-Roar, he does have a higher win rate than me as well. But I'm telling you, his trades in the morning are fucking unbelievable. Every single fucking time in the morning, he's absolutely killing it. I'm known for trading best during the power hour trading session. I'm trying to keep my personal trades at a bare minimum two to three per day. I'm trying to keep it in that overall range, man. But like I said, you have one win on the day. Going back to going green to red is a fucking choice, man. You have to manage your risk. And yes, start light, but big enough where you can just call it for the fucking day. So with that being said, we ended up buying SPY 519 puts for 35 cents a contract at 3:47 p.m. We bought these put options at the exact fucking lows. Look at this, man. This is why, like I said, if we buy a trade on calls at 50 cents and it goes to zero, it doesn't matter. We'll take another one very quickly. It will go up 200, 300% during the power hour trading session, man. Look at this. We bought these fucking puts right here at the exact lows. 30 cents a fucking contract, man. They went up to 120 a contract. 300% fucking plus at the speed of light in 10 minutes. This is the beauty of the power hour trading session. So in terms of overall trade, man, we ended up selling at 103 at 3:55 p.m. Fucking flawless, man. The exact peak. Who the fuck do you know is printing like us at the speed of fucking light, man? And there is an offer on the table, man. I'm telling you, there's an offer on the table. Name another group who's trading 0-to-8 options that are deep out of the money, selling in the money for the biggest percentage gains with the highest win rate in the game doing it for $10,000 fucking dollars. Throw a fucking name, man. Who the fuck do you know is buying the furthest out of money option contracts, the cheapest ones, the lowest risk ones, making the biggest percentage gains, selling deep in the money with the 90% plus fucking win rate, print at the speed of light, non fucking stop, alerting everything it is that they're doing in real time. The real-time entry, the real-time market analysis in between the trade, where to set profit stops. I already told you about the system we have. We have a 0-to-8 options trade alert system that prints people money at the speed of fucking light, man. You understand? The only stop we're setting is a profit stop. We get stopped out for profits. That's the difference between us and them. Our contracts are so cheap. If you can't afford to risk $50, don't trade. What you put in is what you're risking. It's so fucking cheap, man. You don't need a stop loss. You let it go to zero. And when it works out and when it goes in the money, you make multiple 100% profit returns. With that being said, we have the highest win rate in the game doing this. If you would like to be involved in part of our secured private organization, it's going to be the first link down below within the description. You are not going to be able to experience anything else like this out there within the market. It does not fucking exist. This fuse is the fucking one. There is no one of one. There is only the fucking one. And I'm telling you, this is the fucking one. So with that being said, man, in terms of the overall levels, let's get straight into the analysis. So heading into the market tomorrow, I am going to be focused on buying the dips. That is my interest, man. I'm very focused on buying the dips on the SPY. In terms of what I'm seeing on the daily overall chart, I'm seeing a daily pattern. This is what I'm seeing. So obviously the SPY is at very oversold levels for the micro, for the short term, especially in this overall bullish market. We do have multiple gaps that are waiting to fill above. SPY has been consistently reversing at all these gaps that have been waiting to fill below, especially waiting to fill below, because we've been having very bullish reversals in this market when there's oversold dip buying opportunities. You can see there was a gap to fill right here at 522. It's not the most oversold one. We did have a short-term reversal. There was no confirmation on the 30-minute chart, but on the 1 minute and 5 minute chart, there was a short-term confirmation to make smaller wins on scalps, if that's what you want to do, right? I was more focused on quick short-term scalps with a foundation of the 1 and the 5 minute chart last year, but this year I'm more focused on that 30-minute chart, and I'm more focused on holding for the bigger percentage gains, man. So with that being said, in terms of the gap, we had a gap at 517.30. We nearly filled the gap, and we're beginning to reverse. So that's a much more oversold gap that has been partially filling, partially filled here, partially filled here. Now, this is the daily pattern that I wanted to point out. In terms of the overall daily pattern, this is what I'm seeing on the SPY. I'm seeing this red bearish candlestick facing to the downside, right? So I'm seeing we're towards a similar level. We're towards a red bearish candlestick facing to the downside, red bearish candlestick facing to the downside. We're towards an oversold gap. So I'm looking for dip buying opportunities. Based off the pattern, we can have a massive spike or even a massive gap, and then it could start to sell off and close weak. So in terms of extended hours trading session, this is what I want you to be aware of. Right now, during the extended hours trading session, we are currently gapping. You can see right here, SPY ended up closing at 518.66. We had a nice move to the upside at 520, so we were gapping up. Even at first, we were gapping down. We gapped down from 514, then we went to 520. The market's fucking volatile, man. This is the best time to be buying further out of the money option contracts, man. If you go in the money, you're going to get screwed. You're going to be paying more. You're going to be risking more for even smaller fucking gains. Most people who buy in the money options, they scalp and they sell very fucking quickly. They don't know how to hold their fucking trades, and they use stop losses. We do the complete opposite of what it is that they fucking do. We hold our trades for bigger fucking wins. We minimize and lower our risk by going further out of the money. And that's what rich people do, man. Rich people prefer to put in less money to make bigger percentage gains. But you got to be able to hold your trades for longer periods of times to do this in a sense. And you have to be able to time your trades accordingly. But in our experience, our dead plays that drop 50, 60, 70%, they tend to come back to life and go in the money 70% of the time. And if not, the next trade tends to be 150% plus profit return, especially towards that power hour volatile session or in the morning session. Now, with that being said, man, what I'm looking for on the SPY is a dip buying opportunity. I'm interested in buying the dip. So in terms of our dip buying zone, I have 3 levels for you. These are going to be the 3 levels of interest. So I'm keeping an eye on pre-market lows. I'm keeping an eye on very strong bounce. If we go to 514, we're likely going to bounce first. Now again, this level, this is correlated to overreactions to the downside. This means, in terms of what I'm speaking about, it needs to quickly drop back to this level. If not, then that's a different ball game. So it needs to quickly drop back down to 514 for me to be interested in buying. But my true interest, if we're having a small gap up tomorrow, we're not really doing too much, but my true interest is to truly be buying the dips. So I'm watching 518.66 and I'm watching 517.37. That is going to be our gap zones. We have 2 gaps that are currently waiting to fill below 518.66 and 517.37, and then our next level below that is going to be 514. Those are going to be the dip buying levels heading into tomorrow. If you are seeing a green bullish 30-minute confirmation towards those levels, you are going to want to dip buy calls based off of what the market is showing me. If we do not have a massive gap up tomorrow, so if we stay around this level, or even if we're dropping, we're going to be very interested in buying the dip when we see green bullish 30-minute confirmations towards one of those levels, man. So if we're not having this crazy massive gap up, or even if we are having a massive gap up, if we drop right back down, it's got to happen quickly, right? So we got to quickly go back to those levels to buy those call options at the 30-minute confirmation. That should be a phenomenal opportunity for call options. Now, in terms of put options, what I can give you in advance, and you can also keep an eye on 507.80. It's likely not getting tomorrow, but you can keep an eye on that as well for just a short-term bounce and scalp. Likely bounce there first. Now, In terms of my levels for put options, not too much to say at the open. We've been waiting for this gap at 543 for a reversal. We've been waiting for this gap at 532.60 for a reversal, but we've identified ways to play it for a partial reversal. Again, it doesn't have to be exactly at the level. If you're seeing multiple strategies that I teach you, you can simply enter the trade towards the level. It doesn't have to hit the exact fucking level if you're seeing all these confirmations to get in, man, because there's multiple strategies and the levels can be a foundation to the overall strategy. But that's the overall game plan, man, is to really focus on buying the dip in between the zone. That's the game plan, man. So like I said, if we're not having a big gap up and we're just kind of sitting around the level or we're dipping, we're buying call options towards 518.66, 517.37, or 514 once we see a green bullish 30-minute confirmation at one of those fucking levels, trend reversal 30-minute confirmation. If we have a massive gap up tomorrow, it has to quickly drop for me to buy those calls towards those levels. If it does not quickly drop back down towards those levels, I'm not even interested in buying calls towards those overall levels. Use the 30-minute confirmations at those levels. In terms of put options, 532.60 and 543. If you wait patiently for these levels, you use the patterns that I'm consistently teaching you, you apply these trends, these patterns that I'm teaching nonstop, man. The 10-day, 30-minute chart changes all the time. But if you're using it at these levels, it's a phenomenal foundation. But you have to be patient. You have to be patient and you have to stay aware, man. So set your price alerts. Create your price alerts at these overall levels. Wait for the 30-minute confirmations. I'm well aware there's people, they like to scalp 1 minute, 5 minute chart, small gains. It could be bigger gains if a big move works in your favor. But I am telling you, an easy way to trade and where you can really hold a trade for a big fucking win within 30 minutes to an hour worth of price action is the 30-minute chart. It is the best foundation that I've found to work with these overall patterns. In terms of these patterns that I'm teaching you, you can look for patterns on multiple time frames. You can look for patterns on the 1 minute, the 5 minute, the 30 minute, the hour, the 4 hour. You can look for patterns on the daily chart, right? You just have to understand what it is that you're optimizing for. If you're optimizing for a strategy with a 30-minute chart, that means that you're playing for a longer-term move. You're playing for a longer-term hold. You're playing for bigger gains. A 30-minute candle in terms of a pattern is going to help dictate the next 30 minutes to the next hour. If you're using the 1 minute to 5 minute chart, then it's going to help with the next 1 minute to 5 minute price action. You got to keep on updating it. I stack it. I use the 30-minute as a strong foundation, and then I break it down with the 1 minute chart. It helps confirm that the 30-minute candle is going to work in a sense, right? So that main foundation is the higher time frames. If you use higher time frames as a foundation, you can hold trades for a longer period of time, and then you can break the trades down using smaller time frames. But it starts with the higher time frames, right? And then you apply these patterns and these trends with the levels that it is that I'm giving you, man. If you use this information, you should not have a problem, green man. This just goes to show you the beauty of watching my trade recaps is that they're going to continue to repeat itself by accident. They're going to continue to repeat itself within time. And it's not by accident that it keeps on fucking working. I'm telling you, the stuff that I've created has the highest percentage win rate in the fucking game. All the multi-millionaire traders who know of me, who follow my stuff, who use my stuff, they're all aware of it. They fucking use it. The shit fucking works, man. So with that being said, it's going to continue to work and it's going to continue to print at the speed of fucking light. And I'm always adapting. I'm always changing the fucking game. I'm always creating new fucking trading strategies. This is the shit that I'm on right now. Who knows what I'm going to be doing a couple years from now, man? You watch the evolution of this channel. It did not look like this from the start, but the foundation of this channel was that gap close reversal trading strategy that I've created, man. I've truly mastered that to a T, and I've trained over 2,000 students with that overall strategy. So for those of you who are serious about making money, you want to trade with this, right? Because the way to learn how to trade, the way to learn how to do anything is to do it, right? You have to trade. You have to trade non-fucking stop, right? For those of you who want to trade with us, you want to come prune us at the non-stop speed of fucking light. You want to come see us, capture these trends, capture these patterns in real time. And like I said, I have many different strategies. Not all my strategies is what it is that I'm teaching you. I have a strategy where it's solely based off the foundation of just intuition, just the heart of cards. And that could be a stock with the technical stuff that I'm using as well. But yeah, I enter trades where it's literally just intuition and heart of cards. But I have a lot of trading strategies. And what I do is I combine all the strategies at a certain key level. Key level can be a foundation. Multiple strategies stacked together can be a foundation, a partial gap close reversal, 2 hours of resistance, red, green, red pattern, lower highs for an hour, the red bearish pattern, the red bearish pattern, the red bearish pattern, short-term history tends to repeat itself, massive sell-off, massive sell-off, massive sell-off, add to puts, get back into puts when the bottom wicks crack, bottom wicks crack, bottom wicks fucking crack, gonna crash and fill the gap below. It can't just sit up here and fucking float, folks. So I'm putting you onto the game that I fucking created. And with this game, we're running the overall market, man. You think it's by accident that we have a win rate above 90%? Buying cheap far out of money option contracts? Do you understand? This is the most professional way to trade. This is the hardest way to trade. This is the hardest thing you can possibly master within the market. Think about it. If you have mastered intuition, heart of cards, price action, you know how the game works. What would you optimize for? If you decided to trade options, what would you do? Wouldn't you go cheap, far out of the money, risk less of your money, hold a little bit longer, make the biggest percentage gains, get the most for your dollars by risking less? Isn't that what you would do? Why would you want to go in the money? Sell quickly, small percentage gains? If you're holding, why the fuck would you go in the money? If you buy in the money options and you hold for long periods of time, you're risking more and you're not rewarding yourself for fucking holding. You're paying more to make less percentage wise. If I have a strategy where I'm holding for a long period of time, I'm going to reward myself by putting in less money, risking less, and making the biggest percentage fucking gains, man. Look, 98% of fucking traders who optimize for this strategy lose. But we have the system. We have the zero-date options trade alert system. It's cheap. It's low risk. There's no stop losses. If you can't afford to risk $30 on fucking SPY puts during power hour to make $120, then this isn't for you. It's just not for you, dude. If you can't afford to risk 30 to make 120, it's not for you, man. If we put in $50 on SPY calls and it goes to zero, well, $30 in puts goes to $120. Do the math. With that being said, man, this is the best system we've optimized for. Any trader who's mastered trading will focus on the best system to optimize for. And the best system to have as a trader is a system where you can be very successful with a low win rate. Anyone who's mastered trading, they optimize for systems where they can be very successful with a low win rate. And they do that in terms of risk management 101 by risking less and entering trades and holding for longer periods of time where they can make the biggest percentage gains. We don't need our high win rate. But when you're truly the best and you've been doing this for over a fucking decade, the high win rate comes with the fucking game. You start to earn it, man. You work towards it. Your win rate increases over time. So it's cheap. It's low risk. We're buying cheap far out of money option contracts. We're selling them deep in the money for the biggest percentage gains. And we have the highest win rate doing this. There is no comparison. Anyone who's mastered trading or options trading as a day trader, they all would optimize for this. When you hit the fucking top, this is it. I'm telling you, when you hit the top fucking tier, this is, in terms of trading, this is the top fucking tier of options if you are day trading options, man. So with that being said, it's the first link down below within the description. If you want to come print with us tomorrow in our secured private organization, it is non-stop winning.